My name is Mike Doherty. I'm Product Director for Payment Centric, and Stephen mentioned FinTech probably started in Fife about 40 years ago, so I'm a relatively new guy. I've only been involved for about 30 years. My colleague Bill over here was probably one of the founders 40 years ago. What we did, when I joined a company called Fortronic, and back in the day Fortronic was making credit and debit card machines that you would see in garage forecourts, retailer shops, etc. And the wonderful technology back then was mag swipe cards, signature for authorisation, and it was all about storing forward terminals. So the transaction was stored in terminals, and overnight they would be sucked out through a central host system. Over the years that technology evolved, and we've seen huge changes in the industry, starting with chip and pin, which came in and was hugely complex at the time, and now everyone takes it for granted. One of the big debates was, did people remember a 4-digit pin, and how would my granny ever manage without writing it down someplace? Hard to believe, but that's the way it was. But Fortronic was probably the start of FinTech. We just thought of it as a day job then, not FinTech. And even now, we're probably involved in more payment tech than FinTech. FinTech's a huge field. But over the years, we developed from the initial store and forward signature verification to online chip and pin. During that time, it's quite interesting that the utility companies were deregulating, and there was a need for collection of payments within local shops. And at the same time, the mobile phone was starting up, and huge numbers of prepaid mobile phones are coming to the market. So within Fortronic, we saw an opportunity to create a payment network where we could go into the communities and collect payments on these little devices, these terminals that we were using and putting in for payments. So we started working and created a company called PayZone, which you might still see today there throughout the country. So myself and Bill started and developed PayZone, and it's still active. PayZone and PayPoint are two big companies today. Eventually Fortronic was sold to a company called Ingenico, but Doherty, who were the owner of Fortronic at the time, they saw the value in PayZone as a network rather than just a payment device, and they held on to PayZone. Eventually, come 2000, I left PayZone, set up a company called TS3 Services. And in TS3 Services, we kind of went back to focusing on credit and debit card payments, but as a network. So rather than simply providing software and terminals, we actually created a complete payments platform. So transactions would leave the terminal, come into our platform, and then we would route those to the various acquiring banks. And we were very much focused on niche solutions. So for example, for WorldPay, we developed the dynamic currency conversion solution that's still live today. So if you go to visit the castle or any tourist resorts in Scotland and the UK, you can, if you're an American tourist, you can pay in US dollars. For Global Payments, who were running the HSBC network at the time, every single credit and debit card machine that Global Payments deployed was connected to our systems. We then routed those transactions off to Atlanta for authorization. And by the time we left TS3, we had over 150,000 point of sale machines connected to us, and we were doing over 500 million transactions a year processing them. For UnionPay, when UnionPay came into the UK, it obviously started on a relatively small scale. Global Payments, WorldPay, Barclays, Lloyds all wanted to support UnionPay cards through their networks, but they needed to turn the solution around extremely quickly, so they turned to TS3 Services, and we created a complete bespoke end-to-end solution where we wrote the software on the point-of-sale devices. We routed the transactions from our host, and we had direct links to Shanghai, sent the transactions for authorization. At the end of each week, we would calculate the merchant service charges, deduct those from the payments due to the merchants, and then we would send out the statements. So it was a complete end-to-end solution for UnionPay for 4 of the big acquirers in the UK. During that time, we also got introduced to Africa, to a bit of a circuitous route, but initially we were invited out to Kenya to look at putting in credit and debit card payment solutions into Africa. This was going back 2007, 2008. And at the time, it was very difficult to pay by card in Africa. It's pretty much cash everywhere. So we went to Africa and we got involved in a number of projects, but one of the things that struck us while we were there was the amount of cash payments that were taking place. And huge queues were forming every day outside of the power company offices, the water company offices. And when we looked around, we thought, this is exactly the solution that we developed Payzone to solve way back in the late 90s in the UK. So we got involved with a partner in Kenya and we set up essentially an equivalent of Payzone, but in Kenya, to solve the problem. And essentially we're bringing payments into the community. So rather than people having to travel for miles on buses or literally walking for hours to queue up to make payments, we would bring the technology to the local retailers, set them up as agents, and allow payments to be taken locally and immediately to update the relative accounts on whether it's a power company or water company, do mobile phone top-ups, etc. Cut a long story short, TST services were very successful. We sold the business in 2011, stayed with the business for 4 years, and essentially eventually left, and set up Payment Centric in 2014-15. For the last 4 years, we've been developing a brand new platform. It's all cloud-based, using the latest technology. And essentially, it does very similar services. It can do credit and debit card processing. It can do all sorts of online payments. It can do money remittance. And what we're doing now is we're focusing on Africa. We still see a huge opportunity there. Africa is going to expand, explode economically over the next 10, 20 years. And we still see a huge opportunity to provide payment services in Kenya. We've currently gone live with a new network, again similar to Payzone in Kenya. And we are providing, so we are establishing a network of shops, taking all sorts of payments. We've established a relationship with Barclays Bank out there, where we've developed an agency banking solution. So as well as taking payments into the community, we're taking banking services into the community. So customers can come along, make deposits, make withdrawals from the local shops, obtain statements and balances on their account. And one of the uniques we're bringing as well is the services in country. There's a huge diaspora in the UK, Europe and beyond, and we're bringing those shops into Europe, into the UK as virtual shops. International remittances is an absolutely huge market. Something like $650 billion US dollars annually is the official market, but they reckon perhaps double that through the unofficial market. A lot of the money that's set back is set back for a specific purpose. It's for funding schooling, it's for household goods. But when people send cash, it can often be misspent, and there's no end of stories of people sending money only to find it's been completely misspent. So what we're doing is we're now opening up a virtual shop, so people in the UK, for example, can pay the electricity bill or the water bill or top up mobile phones directly in Africa. We've test marketed this in Kenya and with the African diaspora in the UK, and to Oman, everyone's very keen to use this service, because when people come to this country to better their lives, get better education, jobs, it's still very hard work to earn the cash. It's difficult. They don't want to be spending it back to be frittered away. So there's kind of universal acceptance. This is a very desirable solution. In addition to the networks, we also discovered while we were there an opportunity for business to business and business to consumer payments. We all take for granted that salaries get paid into our bank accounts, and there's back systems, there's faster payment systems. In Africa, these things don't really exist to any large degree. So we're working with local companies to put in essentially automated payment systems. So for example, companies can pay their staff, could be through mobile phone top-ups. A lot of security companies add credit to their staff's mobile phones so they can keep in touch. We had an example where we spoke to the Gambia Minister of Education in Glasgow a few months back, and she was telling us that teachers still get paid by people going around with sacks of cash and round bags handing over the cash to the teachers. There was a huge strike in the Gambia because teachers weren't getting paid because the money was being held up someplace, or people were being robbed or looked to paying them. And we're looking at putting in solutions to overcome that. We're actually live in Kenya with that right now. So we can make payments from businesses direct to bank accounts, direct to mobile wallet accounts. M-Pesa is the largest and most successful mobile wallet solution in the world, and we are hooked into the M-Pesa system so we can make and take payments through M-Pesa. So those three different aspects: on the ground network, the virtual shop to make payments, and the business and business to consumer payments. So the question is, what's all that got to do with open banking? Well, that kind of brings us bang up to date on the latest technology, and what we're looking to do is use open banking in the UK to allow the diaspora to make more efficient payments. And when diaspora sign up with us to use our services, right now we do automated AML and KYC checks through a number of bureaus, and we're looking at using open banking as a way to make that more efficient and more streamlined solution, and also then to use open banking as a payment method rather than cash or card payments. So we're getting involved in open banking projects on that basis. So, thank you.
The start of payments.